I recorded an episode of the Vive stream because it felt like it had been a while since I'd done so. The recording went well, as you can see. The game worked fine. Everything seemed great until I went back to watch the video and found that, of course, my microphones are still broken, both my external one and the one for the Vive, which means that all of the commentary that I gave during that episode recording is not audible at all. So I've had to rejigger myself a little bit and record some audio after the fact via my phone. It ain't pretty, but better than not having anything to put up. So here we go, making our character. I didn't have anything particular in mind here. I was just sort of messing around with it. It does seem odd to me, just because it is a game in first person, that there would be so much detail to character creation, but there's a lot, as you will see. The beard slider doesn't appear to do anything. You're not going to see the eye color significantly. The skin color has quite a, if I can grab onto it, quite a range. So you should be able to get pretty close to what you look like in there, which is cool if that is what you're after. I don't usually try to make myself in these games, especially because I am not as in shape as that guy. But as you can see, tons and tons of options. Which again, just seems weird to me for a first-person game. Oh, and now you get clothes on. The face, there's something off with that face, man. He's staring out like, what do I do? What's the sword? So one thing you're going to notice in this video, and indeed in this game, is that despite the name Sword and Sorcery, there is no sorcery to be found. Maybe you unlock that later? I don't know. So here we go. We'll go to a menu so they could justify the character creation, I guess. Granted, I think there is actually an online mode, so that's probably what it's for. But it's still crazy that they put so much detail into it. It's not Skyrim, guys. It does the whole thing where it shows you the arms and legs when you look at where they'd be, which I have mixed feelings about, honestly. As you can see, as you'll see very soon, they tend to get in the way. But on the flip side, they do sort of add to the realism. Here's some tips. But they were helpful tips, but I didn't want to go too far into them without playing a tutorial of any sort. Unfortunately, there wasn't a tutorial of any sort. So I did my best to keep track of all this stuff that I was reading. Yeah, I don't know why I spent so much time on this, honestly. It is, to be fair, it's my first time recording the Vive stream proper in quite a while. Heck, it's my first time using the Vive since the last Vive stream / Black Hole that I did. And that was a sort of a different experience from this. I went into that one more like a Black Hole episode than a Vive stream episode. Excuse me. One thing that you would hear if I had the full recording is me starting to do the intro, coughing, and then starting over again. So there are some things that are interactable in this room, which is nice, but there's not much point to any of it. I try to put this hat on, and nothing. And the hat fell, which is really a shame. I mean, I wasn't expecting Shenmue levels of stuff in drawers, but I could do a little better than that, guys. Sorry. Yeah, I don't know what I was looking for here. I learned how to jump, so that's an improvement. Tried to open this chest, but I could not. However, just from the tool prompts, I found the dagger. Not a bad thing to have, I guess. If I could remember how to hold on to it and everything. Sometimes the grabbing doesn't quite work properly, as you saw there. You can store it. You can store weapons either on your left side, your right side, your left shoulder, or your right shoulder. So you know, similar to what we've seen in games like what's the one? Hot dogs, horseshoes, and hand grenades. Yeah, this thing doesn't open either. I can knock on the chest, but unless Narnia is in there, it ain't gonna do much. Use the two touchpads for movement, which was well, I guess it fits for a game like this. You need to be able to move quickly without having to like look around for the right spot. But I still have trouble with it, as you will see. So you see there are 3 levels that need to be unlocked on that map, which makes me think maybe you have to unlock the sorcery part too. But I would think that in a game called Sword and Sorcery, even if it's in early access, you would have some sorcery out of the gate. It's also worth noting that this is primarily a sandbox sort of game. There are enemies to fight, but they are in waves that you control. So there's no story really. The combat we'll get to. You got healing potions. That's the only hint of magic in this entire game that I was able to find anyway. Maybe I missed something super obvious and I'm just an idiot, but I don't think so. So we came to the training area here, but it doesn't really tell us what to do. But you know, it's actually pretty straightforward. We've played games like this before, both on the show and ones I've played up on my own. So there's a kick, which is new to this one, I must admit. Yeah, great. I tried to grab the mace, and now you have to watch me. I want to be absolutely clear here. I was not trying to do anything suggestive with the mace. That was not my intention. So the way that it works is if you want to change where your grip is on an object in this game, you press the trigger and it'll slide in the direction of gravity until you stop holding the trigger. So that was me, and this was me trying to get the right handle on the mace, and nothing more. I promise. Kept dropping things a lot early on. I think I was probably just pressing the grip buttons accidentally. Yeah, I figured my first instinct would be to dual wield. Even though dual wielding isn't really a thing, and that's for good reason. But, you know, it is what it is. Try to cut those ropes, but sadly they are not cuttable. Maybe in later updates that'll become cuttable. I also can't cut any of the wood here, but swinging the weapons around kind of felt good. The shorter reach of the mace was giving me a little trouble. Ladders. Climb ladders normally by using, you know, the triggers to grip with your hands, or rather the grip buttons to grip with your hands. So that was a nice little touch. Unfortunately, when you're not using a teleportation-based movement system, it's hard to know what you need to do to get off the ladder, but I figured it out the second time around. Only to find that there was nothing up here at all. Nothing interactable, nothing helpful, nothing interesting. It's just scenery, and it's very good scenery, I'll admit. You know, the environments are great, but there's so much of this game is just scenery. So that's a bit of a shame. You know, one thing that benefits games like Skyrim VR and Fallout 4 VR is that because they weren't designed as VR games, there are NPCs around. Because for some reason NPCs just aren't really particularly common in VR games. You got the player character, you got the enemies, and that's about it. It just makes the world feel a little empty. But I also realized that running VR games requires a lot of horsepower, as does running a game with a whole bunch of characters moving around in it, so sacrifices have to be made, especially when it comes to an early access game like this. just had a flashback to the time I tried to host a karaoke party through a VR game. That was an example of too many people. Granted, it was real people and not, CPUs, but still. That was an example of too many people and not having a powerful enough computer to do what you're trying to do. It was a nightmare. I wrote about it on the blog. You can find that. Give a search for karaoke, and I'm guessing it'll come up. I like these rune-based loading screens. All right, so here we are. We actually finally, 11 minutes into the video, made it into one of the stages. I don't know why I was fucking around so much. This is the market, and as you can see, it's beautiful and empty. Not a lot of bystanders or passers-by, which again I understand. It wouldn't serve the best purpose for this game, but in later updates, if at least as an option, I think it would be cool. Yeah, I grabbed the dagger before realizing that it was a dagger. I thought it was just a shorter sword, which, yeah, so that purple stain we'll get to. It took me a while to figure out what exactly was happening with that. You might have caught it already. There we go. Yeah, I guess I assumed that the game would automatically have me pick up the sword the right way. Not this one. They're going for full realism here. My purple stain is still mysteriously following me. Seems to be gone now, but it followed me for a while. I wonder what could be going on with that. So at that point I decided to finally actually start playing the game properly. I decided to start on very easy mode because, well, I know me, and I know how I am with these games. Sword and Shield, the way to go, I find. Alex just came in, so I will let him know that I was not able to actually record the audio properly when I was filming the Vive stream, and as such I need to record audio after the fact. So that's fun. Yeah, I don't know what I was doing futzing around with these weapons. When I determined I wanted to go for a sword and shield, but you'll see this is the beginning of a very common thing in my playthrough of this game, dropping the shield. It was a long-running problem for me. So I started my first battle scenario against these bandits. And the combat, especially when you're doing one-on-one, is pretty neat. Things move realistically. The opponents parry properly. Weak points are what you'd expect them to be. Hitting someone on the head is better than hitting them on the chest, as you just saw. There's that purple stain again. Where things become difficult is when you're fighting more than one person at a time. Granted, I had some difficulty here in very easy mode, just getting through the first wave of people who are all coming one at a time, but, presumably you're not quite as bad at this as I am. And, yeah. You will only really run into trouble when you're fighting a bunch of people at once. Okay, here we go. Now I was fighting multiple people. And I dropped my sword this time. I picked up the sword, but then as I died, I threw the shield, which was not intentional, but it would have been really cool if it was. I know you can throw daggers and things like that in this game. I don't know if you can throw shields. I don't know if you can be Captain America. So, I started over because that was disgraceful. More purple stain. Checking my dagger for some reason. I don't know why I kept that dagger with me the whole time. I never used it. Not by choice, anyway. But, whenever you're playing a new VR game, you have to get used to how it does controls, because two games that are very similar might control very differently. The biggest question being, how do you pick things up? Is it the grip buttons or the trigger buttons? I tend to prefer the trigger buttons, but this game uses the grip buttons, which I suppose is more realistic in a way, but I don't know. The grip buttons are just harder to use, and they're much easier to press accidentally. So for core features like picking up or letting go of things. So at this point, I was going to say, for those features, using the grip buttons doesn't make a ton of sense. So at this point, I started realizing, it started at least seeming to me, like whenever I started a wave, that's when the purple stain would appear. So I thought maybe it was related to that. Soon enough, you will see what it comes from. This is also where I learned that shield bashing is a thing in this game. Too bad I threw the shield. Again, not intentionally. So when you pick up the axe like that, you then have to press the trigger to actually be holding it, which I find rather weird. Otherwise, it's just floating in front of you. So I actually dropped my axe. I thought maybe she was disarming me, but given that never happened again, I don't think that's actually what the case was. I think I just pressed the grips on accidentally. But at least this time I managed to get through very easy wave 1, as you will see. Yeah, it took care of... Oh, yeah. So I tried to just, pick up whatever was closest, which was the axe. And somehow, as you'll see, I managed to survive this. Needless to say, oh wait, hold on, we're not quite done. I went to go grab a replacement shield between guys. This one being a little bit bigger than before. The axe ain't a great weapon, I gotta say. I don't know why you'd use the axe. I know what they were used for in real life, but in this game, I guess I don't really see the point. Maybe in other levels you find people wearing heavy armor that you need to get through. I don't know. So yeah, no, I didn't survive that time. My bad. But because I am pointlessly stubborn, still had that dagger, case in point there. I tried again. Resolving this time to not drop things. If I could avoid it. Put the sword on my right shoulder for some reason. I don't know why I would do that. And went to try this one last time for very easy wave 1. Once I could figure out how to point to it. And let's see how I do this time. And let's hope that I keep hold of my weapons this time. There's that purple stain again. Yeah, it was funny actually. When I started this round, I said to myself, or rather I said in the recording, well, at least we know where they're going to be coming from this time. And in response, of course, the enemy started coming from a different location. So the game sure showed me. Tried to do some shield bash and a shield deflection there, but I ended up just needing to do a stabby stab. Yeah, the turn. I don't love the quick turn situation. I see the use for it. I see why it's important in a game like this. But yeah, I don't know. It kind of ruins the immersion for me. Aha. You notice that while this game does have blood, it's not as gory as like Gorn or Gladius or Gladius or however you pronounce the name of that game. I can't remember if I did that one on the show or if I tried to and it didn't record properly. It's another game very similar to this. Also realistic. It's a little more violent, a little more gory, but very similar in concept to this one. Honestly, I do prefer that one. I prefer, insert name of the game I just said here over Swords and Sorcery. For the simple reason, if nothing else, that, well, it just feels more cohesive, I guess is how I'd put it. It feels more complete. Plus you can cut people's limbs off, so, that's fun. Everyone loves that. Drop the shield again, but this time I just decided, fuck it, I'll keep stabbing. And it worked. No more bandit. Except for, the other bandits. Dude's giving me a look like, I know what you're thinking, and I'm thinking, no, you don't know what I'm thinking, which maybe he knew. Who knows? It's a crazy world. I think that was when I finally got rid of the stupid dagger. It was just taking up space. And that's when I realized that the purple stain was coming from my forever leaking health potion that I had put in my holster slot previously. As you can see, it didn't like lose any of its contents mechanically, and it did stop draining after I drank it. But yeah, all this time it had just been draining for reasons unknown. Yeah. Odd little glitch. It took me surprisingly long to figure out how that was going. So I decided next I wanted to try going from very easy to just easy. I figured, it's easy. How bad can it be, right? But I made a fatal mistake. Is this where I did that? I don't know what the heck I'm doing now. Looking at my bloody sword. Yeah, I'm not sure what I was doing at this point. Just exploring the area, I guess. Oh yes, this is when I decided to look around and see if there was anything related to sorcery to be found. There was not. No sorcery, just swords and other such things. Which the game does well enough, but I think you can find better. Man, I was just wasting a ton of time here. Sorry about that. You know, obviously I can't really look at the clock when I'm filming the ViveStream, so, I say filming, what I mean is recording. I don't know why I said filming. So, sometimes I go really long and sometimes I go really short, depending on the game. This one, despite it being kind of boring, went for quite a while. I did find it funny that all the bodies were just still sitting here. I didn't realize that those fruits were a texture until right now as I'm recording this. Or at the very least, they're low res. So before venturing into the terrible depths of easy mode, I decided to switch things up a little bit. Get rid of the sword and buckler and take on this thing. The Claymore. Swing it with two hands. Obviously you don't need to actually use two hands in real life. It's not like the game, it would, well, I guess the game would know, but, you know, you don't really have to do it like that, but it does help control it, and controlling the Claymore is difficult. This was the fatal mistake I was talking about, using the Claymore. In games like this, the big swords like that tend to get stuck on things a lot, which is not helpful. As you will see multiple times very, very soon. I got the one guy here, just slash him with the Claymore, not a problem. Against the one single dude, it was no issue. Against this lady, hit her a couple times with the Claymore, no problem. I was riding high, killed that one in one shot. Things were going great for me and my Claymore, until the game decided to up the ante a little bit, and again add extra opponents for me to fight. 3 at the same time, in fact. Now I can only do one thing at this point, which was swing the Claymore, so I wasn't really able to defend myself from other attacks in any way. Also probably should have backed up, rather than, you know, letting them be all in my face like that. Didn't think of it at the time, to be honest. That was a mistake. I want to check out what special was. I think that's online. It's mercenary versus friends. So I would assume that's the online mode, and I'm assuming there is an online mode because you customize your character so much. It is possible that I've got an older version of this game, which might explain the lack of sorcery. Um, this is build 1, apparently. I don't know how many builds there were. I downloaded this a while ago. Nor am I sure what changed in the later builds, so if you are interested in checking this game out, go ahead and do that. Went ahead, so you can choose how to, I didn't notice when I was doing this, you can choose how many NPCs spawn at what, or are active at any time, but that just feels like cheating, because that's meant for to make the game run more smoothly, referring to what I was saying before about how it's hard to run a game with a whole bunch of NPCs running around. So I went back to the home place, and sure enough, the potion was leaking again. Tried to recork it, no dice. Just a huge pool of health potion on my carpet. The good news is, I mean, it was an infinite health potion. As long as you kept the cork on, you would be able to use it forever. So, you know, there was something to be said for that. I don't actually know if it would work if you tried to quote-unquote drink the stuff leaking out of it. Not sure if it would have worked or not. I'm guessing probably not, since it didn't count for the percentage anyway in the first place, but who knows? Maybe that's a useful glitch. Yeah, bumming around in the house again. Again, looking for any sign of sorcery. Any sign at all of sorcery in this game, Swords and Sorcery. And I found none. But I did like how they modeled out the whole bedroom and the dining area here and the upstairs. Environment-wise, again, they did a great job with this. Decided to test that theory a little bit by checking out one of the other levels before ending. Went to the ruins to fight the Dark Cult. Dun dun dun. Alright. So yeah, as you can see, the arena, or rather the ruins, nice environment, really cool, really well laid out and everything. Well laid out, except for you have to search for the weapons. You know, these three things you see right away, but everything else, you really gotta explore the environment to find them. Which you know might seem like a good thing. Oh, you know, they're encouraging exploration, but really it's just kind of a pain. So yeah, I was really upset when I found out that my audio hadn't recorded properly. I have no idea what's wrong with my microphones. It's obviously something with the computer and not the microphones, because they're two completely separate pieces of hardware. So something with my computer just isn't working properly with microphones right now. I've tried all the steps you'd expect, and I'm just getting nothing. Hopefully, you know, the next time I post a video, it will actually have the proper audio at the proper time, even if it means recording it from my phone as I'm playing. You know, that's not ideal, obviously. I'd like to get the Vive's microphone working, or my desktop microphone working, depending on which show I decide to film. Again, I'm saying film when I mean record. But, yeah, either way, I will have the right audio at the right time. So I made another fatal mistake, the same fatal mistake again in this case, using the claymore. And it didn't go well, again. Spoiler alert, did not go well. Then I had to find the thing that I need to go to summon the enemies, which was over here. And I tried easy again. I figured these guys are cultists, they won't be so well armored, right? That was the idea, that was the thought. Let's see how that went for me. I don't know what I was doing with that claymore, man. Just wiggling around like a madman. So I found this cultist. He is indeed armored. But he doesn't have hair, so, you know. It's almost kind of close to right. This is where you can see what I was talking about the Claymore getting stuck to stuff, and how hard it is to fight multiple people at a time. I mean, it's hard to fight multiple people at a time no matter what you're doing, what you're using, but yeah, see, they're just stuck to the wall there. It's especially difficult with the Claymore. But I stuck with it. God help me, I stuck with it. But, yeah, there was no way it was going to last. Managed to get that dude at least. And that dude, for that matter. Actually did better this time than the previous time, I think. I haven't been counting or anything. So I was feeling pretty good about myself at this point. And then I had to fight this lady, and Mr. Shieldy over there, and Mr. Mason Axe at the same time. And that became a little more difficult. The Claymore kept getting stuck to the wall, or stuck to them, or just not moving properly, and I also suck at the game, so it went about how you would expect. Well, thank you for bearing with me during this unusual episode of the ViveStream. Like I said, next time we'll have the right audio, you know, regardless of how I have to make that happen. It will happen. But for now, my usual sign-off for the ViveStream isn't really going to work, and I also forgot to do my usual intro for the ViveStream, so I'm going to say something else instead. I'm going to say, now time you can, well, let me start with, if you want more content, feel free to check out www.thatvideogameblog.com. I just posted a review of Trials Rising, if you want to check that out. And, you know, as always, feel free to come back and watch more videos. 2 weeks from now will be the next episode. It might be the ViveStream, it might be Black Hole, I'm not sure, really. Depends on how I'm feeling. But for now, like I said, different sort of sign-off. Now time for me to finish my recording and put this Frankenstein video together.